What is up? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world and whenever you are tuning into this video. My name is James Porcelli.
I'm Bryan Thomas.
And welcome to another very special edition of the Ruthless Talk podcast. Before we get into all the good stuff today, there's a lots to go over after our Bash in Berlin review. If you guys have not checked that episode out, it is available as of right now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as our YouTube channel. And speaking of that said review, I want to give a quick shout out to Carlo, aka the average sports guy that was a part of that said review. Much love to him if he is watching this video. Carlo, if you are watching this, shout out to you. Appreciate you being a part of the show. Much love. Thank you so much for supporting our platform, as of course we will send that love straight back to you. Continue doing what you are doing as well with your platform, talking baseball, football. If you are a big sports fan and a big wrestling fan, then Carlo is your guy to cover all of it, to talk all about it. So,
and hey, man, real quick, dude. Look, I love talking baseball. You know, football's getting ready to start. Playoffs getting ready to start, man. Give me a shout out, dude.
Exactly. Yeah, Carlo, if you're listening to this, bro, like I said,
That's
Bryan,
right, man.
He's been dying to talk freaking baseball and basketball and all that stuff. So, but much love to Carlo. Much again, average sports guy. If you have not checked him out, definitely check him out on Instagram and all of his content. And again, much love. If you haven't checked out our review of Bash in Berlin, make sure to check it out in our last video. Again, all of our platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. So, Bryan, speaking of that said review, you were not a part of it. And I know that there's a few things that you want to talk about and discuss in regards to that show. There's a lot of stuff to go over. I will be talking about NXT No Mercy later, kind of a little bit of recap from NXT No Mercy that happened this past Sunday. And of course, today we're going to get into Monday Night Raw. But Bryan, I'll let you have the floor, man, for this cold open. Your overall thoughts on Bash in Berlin this past Saturday.
Yeah, man. Let me first give a shout out to both you and Carlo, man. Appreciate you filling in, Carlo. And yeah, I actually got the results, you know, and kind of figured out how it went down from you guys before I saw it. So what actually, you know, I thought it was a good thing because, man, I'm going to start off with KO and Cody Rhodes. And, man, I got to tell you, you and Carlo nailed it. I can't remember which one of you said it initially, but man, I feel like maybe the wrestling community, you know, we've gotten so used to these long title reigns, and we kind of just assume that Cody's going to hold on to this title until The Rock or, you know, whatever at Mania.
Right.
And kind of who's to say it has to be that way, you know? You know, he finished his story, he beat Roman, he got the title. You know, you guys had mentioned, I think it would have been a great time because it would have been a swerve if KO had turned heel like you guys had said, went after that knee, and boom, you know, hit the stunner, and we got a new champ. That could have been really good, man. Because you know, there's no reason Cody can't lose right now. You know, if you wanted to get the title back on him before Mania or whatever for The Rock, you could still do that. And, you know, I like how, again, I can't remember which one of you guys mentioned it, but you mentioned back to the Attitude Era when, again, that was prime time for me, man. And you guys were right. Like, you know, Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, you know, go down the list. They never really had long title reigns. There was a lot of back and forth. And I think a lot of that was due to the fact that every one of those people, you could throw in a Mick Foley in there, Undertaker, HBK before he left. They were all main event worthy, like every single one of them. So yeah, it could, like, it was believable that, yeah, maybe Triple H did get one over on Stone Cold, or, you know, The Rock did beat The Undertaker, or whatever. You know, it did make sense. because you had so many main event level stars, which you really just don't have, in this era. There's a few, um, but yeah, you couldn't do that with wrestlers today because and not that there's not the talent, but I don't think there's enough that's been built up to be that. But that being said, man, I thought it was a great match. I really did. But going back to what you guys said, I thought that would have been a great thing. It shocked the crowd. I mean, it would have the crowd would have been stunned. No pun intended with KO's finisher. But yeah, man, I thought that really could work. Otherwise, good match. Punk and McIntyre. Oh man, dude, that was a really good match, man. And we'll get into it, here as we get into Raw. But I think that could have, and we'll see if that concluded the feud. But yeah, dude, that was a great match, man. Shout out to both of those guys and just what they put their bodies through. Punk, dude, as I gotta give kudos to him, man. I had mentioned, this is back before he got his injury here with WWE, man. Like, even his time in AEW, man, I mean, he did not look great in the ring. He did not look to be, I mean, he was in all right shape. But last night, I mean, he looked in phenomenal shape, man. Like, dude is ready to fucking go. And so yeah, man, we'll see where he goes from here. But that was a great match. The mixed tag, kind of went how I figured it would. So it was good. Priest and Rhea got their pound of flesh there. So nothing shocking there. I thought that was a decent match. And of course, Gunther and Orton. Again, another really a good match. Orton again, and I mentioned it a couple weeks ago. Like, I mean, there's part of it that's great. He's coming around, and the fans are acknowledging kind of. He is at the end, and he's playing a face, and you saw Orton, doing getting the crowd to do the wave. I don't know, man. It's just, I mean, it's good. He's great. I mean, he's smooth as shit in the ring, always will be, or the mic. But man, Randy Orton doing the wave, it's just something. It's not the
Doesn't sound
Viper,
right.
man.
Yeah.
It's not the Viper.
Yeah.
But that being said, I mean, Gunther wasn't going to lose that match. Nor should he after, just winning the title. And maybe Orton gets a shot down the road again. Like I said, there's a feud waiting there with Cody Rhodes that has to happen. So I thought it was an okay pay-per-view. Nothing great. But yeah, that KO, the more and like I said, I'm glad you guys even kind of put that thought in my head going into watching it, because yeah, man, I mean, there's nothing saying like Cody can't lose or has to have this long title reign until The Rock comes back or whatever.
Mhm.
Sure, put it on Orton for a couple months, and they have a rematch, whatever. But yeah, they didn't do that, and I didn't expect them to, but yeah, that was a good call on y'all's part, man, for sure.
Yeah. No, it's and shout out to Carlo as well, right? I mean, a lot of this with a couple brain cells in regards to wrestling fans can kind of see where things are going, right? Sometimes that's not always a bad thing, right? As long as it's
Right.
captivating, as long as there's
Yeah.
a direction. But sometimes it's like it's the little things with like Kevin Owens' turn. And Carlo was spot on. It's just like we all know he's going to turn. We all know he's going to do it. So why are you going to save it for SmackDown? Just do it at Bash in Berlin. It's a bigger stage, right? It would have created a really
Dude, the
massive
crowd would
headline.
have been, I mean, I don't think it would have been quite the level of like when Undertaker lost the streak, But
Yeah.
it would have silenced the crowd for a second. You know, it would have been
Yeah.
shocking. Yeah,
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 I mean, obviously we knew the match, right? We always talk about just the wrestling matches nowadays. Yeah, the matchup was fine, and I
right,
liked, and it would have, and the match would have meant more added in with the turn because you saw like the tease of like Kevin Owens, and he's hesitant to pull the trigger and hit the pop up power bomb. He ended up taking his knee out, but he didn't hit the pop up power bomb and like sneak
right.
attack his knee from behind, and that just would have added so much more, right, to that match with the turn. And now you have something going into SmackDown being like, all right, now we got to see what happens here. You know, you
Yeah,
can also argue and say, oh, well, James, there's still going to be suspense. KO can still turn. True. But even if you turn, I'm like, what's the point of just doing it on SmackDown when you could have just done it at Bash in Berlin? It just
right.
doesn't, when
I'd
we already
rather
know. Go ahead,
Yeah, I'd
Brian. Yeah.
rather see him turn at the main event in a pay-per-view for the title than
Yeah.
him just going out there and like maybe hitting a stunner on Cody on a SmackDown, you know? Yeah.
Absolutely, for sure, and of course with Punk and McIntyre, man, arguably I can say was best match of the night, and honestly the
Yeah,
best
yeah.
match that Punk has had since he's been back, with all
Yeah.
these nagging injuries that he's
Like even
had
in
with
AEW, yes.
AEW as
Best
well.
match he's
Yeah,
had in a while.
absolutely for sure. And we're gonna like you said, we're gonna get into this segment from this past Monday on Raw as they continue to just be a really positive talking point in wrestling in regards to engagement and excitement and what those two are doing. But McIntyre doing really well. Even the bracelet, man. The bracelet was just such a nice added touch. With Punk getting the bracelet back and then hitting the final turnbuckle, I thought that was just really, really well done. And yeah, bro, the the main event with Orton and Gunther. If you guys want to know more of my thoughts, I'm not going to elaborate it on here, but you guys heard what I had to say about what happened after the match. If you don't know, well, go check it out. But yeah, I mean, with Orton, like you said, I'll kind of keep it to what you said, Brian. Like, yeah, with Orton, yeah, it's kind of cool. You know, he's out there, he's having a good time. You know, he keeps states like in interviews and such, like I'm having the best time I've ever had in my career, and that's great, man. But you just see what Orton does, like being like the good guy, right? The like,
Mhm.
making people laugh and smile. That ain't Randy Orton, bro. It's just it's
Yeah.
not, man. Like the Orton that we know that is captivating, like that's at his best is when he is like the Viper, when he is that
Yep.
seductive, unhinged character that took out Vince McMahon and punted him in the skull, that ended up RKOing Stephanie
Stephanie.
McMahon and kissed her while Triple H was watching and was handcuffed to the rope, right? All of
But
these
didn't he
things.
also kick her like punt her too? Didn't he do that to Stephanie?
I don't know. I don't. He RKO'd her. I don't
I
know if
know
he
he did
punted her in the
it.
skull.
Oh,
He
that
did
he
to Vince
RKO'd
McMahon.
her.
The punt was to Vince McMahon. The RKO, I believe, was to Stephanie, and then that was the kiss afterwards.
But
Uh,
he's punted a female before, hasn't he?
I don't know. I don't know. I have to go back and think about that. I'm not sure. Maybe
Did
he
he do it
has.
to
I'm not.
Nia? Nia Jax?
No,
Did he
I
do
don't
it to
think it's.
her?
I don't think it's Nia Jax. No, I mean maybe if I'll have to
No.
go back and check that out. But in regards to a
Gotcha.
female,
Yeah.
I'm not sure in regards to that. I know he's like maybe I think he punted. I know Ric Flair in regards to males, like Ric Flair, maybe Dusty. I think one time, and few others that are off the top of my
Yeah.
head. But regardless, like we all know where Orton is at his best, man, and that's
Right.
him being just that unhinged heel. And at some point, and who knows when they're going to do this. And Brian, I agree with you as well as with Carlo, as what he stated, you know, but I feel like they want to drag this out as much as they possibly can till they get to Netflix, because I think that they do
Yeah.
want this to have it a big stage, and that's when you'll also see people like The Rock. As of right now, what
Yep.
is being told is that it's going to be The Rock and Cody at WrestleMania. That's is what we are hearing. That's in the plans
Hmm.
as of right now. Things can obviously change, but that's what's going on as of right now. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
I would
mean the
assume so.
exactly. I mean the pay-per-view and honestly the match, I'll get into the match first and then the pay-per-view overall. Like the match, honestly, I didn't even really mention this from the review. it just felt like a house show match. It just really did. I mean, the match was good. I liked the pass out finish. I never minded
Mhm.
that. And Gunther, of course, getting the victory in the pass. All of it was fine. It was just it.
I do have to nitpick this one thing, man. And like, I know, like sometimes you still do it, or maybe see it. I don't know when it goes back and forth or whatever. But even in these pass out segments, right, or when somebody gets choked out, like
Choked out. Right.
back in the day, you would still raise their arm 3 times, like a 3 count, right?
Yeah.
And now they just do it that once, and boom, they're out.
Once.
Like,
Right.
when did that? Anyway, it's just a little nitpick, but like, when
Yeah.
did that? And still sometimes it doesn't seem consistent throughout the wrestling industry. Like
It's not. No.
sometimes it'll be one, sometimes it'll be three.
They three, yeah, because it's happened with a few people I think before. Like
Yeah,
people, I think maybe it happened with Damian Priest recently with the or almost or well during that match. I don't. He didn't pass. Well, I think he passed out in regard. Yeah, he did pass
yeah.
out.
Yep.
I think the referee did that whole dropping the arm 3 times in that SummerSlam match. So yeah, sometimes again this company does it, and then yeah, you see like what you saw this past Saturday in regards to the pass out
Yeah.
finish. But yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, the pay-per-view overall, man, was what I kind of expected it to be, which was, good wrestling for the most part. And, that's outside of Punk and McIntyre and the mixed tag, that's it. There was really nothing
Yeah.
that I really took away that I gained a lot of investment from, as I'm sure a lot of people can relate. And yeah, that's pretty much it in regards to it. But we'll see where Bad Blood takes us, as we're about a month away from Bad Blood. Before we get back to the main roster side of things, before we get to Monday Night Raw, I do want to go over NXT No Mercy. NXT No Mercy, which I believe, I'm just going to say it straight up, NXT No Mercy, this pay-per-view, this show, blew Bash in Berlin out the fucking water in regards to
Really?
just the product. Oh, absolutely, bro. And I will kind of go over these matches. I won't try to go too overboard in regards to this recap, as I was able to catch this show, not live, but afterwards, after Sunday. So the match or the night started off with the tag title match. This was Axiom and Frazier against Chase U. Axiom Frazier did win this match. This actually was a really good, decent match back and forth for the most part. Now, Frazier and Axiom did win these titles, so a lot of kind of hot potato with the titles. You guys know how I feel about that. But it was after the match, which was Ridge Holland, who is a part of Chase U, ended up turning on Chase U, and they really let it breathe, right? They took out Andre Chase and everybody, and now it seems like they want to bestow Ridge Holland as this solo act. And Ridge Holland, I will say, has gained a lot more confidence and has definitely cleaned up a lot of things since in regards to his first big run with the Brawling Brutes and all of that stuff,
Hmm.
almost legit ending, well, you can almost say ending Big E's career, in regards to that spot years ago. There's
Yeah.
just a lot of improvement that I've seen from Ridge Holland. And as of right now for Ridge Holland, it's either now or never, right? I mean, either he's going to truly soar from this push, right? This second opportunity that he has, because this segment was done very well in regards to making Ridge Holland. Even Thea Hale was like crying in tears and everything. But the changing of the titles and how the turn was done kind of made sense and kind of overshadowed the hot potato, which was the title change. But Axiom and Frazier, I think, do a really good job as a tag team from what I've been able to see. And as well as the turn was just done very well. Andre Chase being sent off on a stretcher. So they really let this segment breathe. So I thought to at least start off the night, because I'm thinking this tag match starting off the night, that's weird. But what they did after the
Hmm.
match, I'm like, all right, that definitely kind of makes up for it. And then afterwards, you had Wesley against Zachary Wentz. This was, of course, a little bit of a grudge matchup with their former tag team known as MSK. I'm not going to lie. I definitely was invested to see what was going to happen in this match, of course, with Wesley and his heel turn. The one thing that I thought was just very, very odd was how the very start of the match, right? It was kind of just more of a flip and dive sequence, counter after counter. There wasn't really like an animosity or a grudge for these two to get their hands on one another. It was just like, can I out wrestle the other? But I thought this was supposed to be like this personal like
Right.
story. Like you guys were friends and now you're foes. Like you can't stand one another. So, but it picked up as it went on. Zachary Wentz's tag partner, I'm forgetting his name from the team, the Rascals, and my apologies, ended up distracting Wes. Wes was about to hit Zachary Wentz with the chair on the outside. But then, of course, his tag partner took it away from him. That caused Zachary Wentz to take advantage and ended up winning the match. I think he calls his finisher the UFO, or like a cutter UFO from the top rope, and hits the cutter. I thought it was a pretty darn solid finisher, not going to lie. Interesting how they went with the TNA talent going over in this match too, especially with Wesley just turning heel. Thought that was kind of a very interesting decision. Again, the matchup started off fine, but then afterwards, it definitely picked up, but I thought the result was definitely a very interesting decision overall. Kalani Jordan and Wendy Chu. I was actually interested in this matchup as well. Kalani, I'm actually very high on Kalani, not as high as another female wrestler I'm going to get into. You guys probably know who I'm talking about if you've seen our socials. But Kalani Jordan, she really wrestles with ease. Like, she has gotten this thing down pat. As far as character wise goes, she definitely needs to gain a lot more confidence and, definitely some more mannerisms and believability with that. This matchup, though, just did not hit, as both of these ladies were just not in sync at all. There was a really ugly botch to where Wendy Chu went to jump onto the top rope to do like a reverse suplex, but she never held on to Kalani, and she kind of just fell backwards. And then Kalani's trying to catch her. She also falls off the top rope. Just a really ugly botch there. Kalani ends up winning the match, which was the right call. Tatum Paxley ended up attacking Wendy Chu after the match. I thought that was at least something to kind of at least rebound and say, oh, that was really cool in regards to the attack, the sneak attack, the camera angle. But it was unfortunate. I like Kalani. I think she'll definitely kind of learn from that botch, because she was just trying to catch Wendy Chu in regards to it, instead of maybe just staying in place and being like, all right, she's going to fall off the top rope. Well, let me just call an audible, hit a sequence from the top rope or something like that. So I'm sure that she'll kind of at least learn from that. But overall, those two just did not gel with one another at all. And that was definitely, not going to lie, at times was kind of hard to watch. But, it's unfortunate. It is when it is. Definitely one of the downer matches of the night for sure. And then I'm going to get into the North American Championship match. Obafemi and Tony D'Angelo. I love freaking Tony D'Angelo. Obafemi, I will say, man, his stature and his presence, I think they're doing a really good job, as well as making this dude feel like a beast. I like the way that they protected Tony D'Angelo in this match, having using 3 power bombs by Obafemi to take him out in this matchup. Obafemi obviously is the right call to win this match. Tony D'Angelo as a wrestler itself, I think, is improving a lot. Obafemi's stature and his booking continues to improve as well. This dude is just continuing to just run over everybody that's being put in front of him. The match was good. Definitely not a great match or something I would want to go back and watch, but for what it was simplistic, and it accomplished what it needed to accomplish at the end of the day. And then we get to the women's world title match. This was Roxy and Jada Parker. This was honestly, if I can honestly say, maybe outside of the main event, there's an argument there, but honestly, match of the night. Roxanne Perez, you guys know how I feel about Roxanne Perez. Just at a young age, at around 22, 23 years old, she has this down pat in regards to even in this new heel character. And of course, her wrestling, man, she's got it in spades. But then there's Jada Parker. Guys, I'm telling you, I hype this woman on social media for a reason. This woman can talk. She can spit on the microphone. Her wrestling continues to improve, right? This was a calling card for Jada Parker. If you didn't know who Jada Parker was, then you freaking knew after this match with Roxanne Perez. If this company allows her to, she can become a major asset and a big star in this company. This woman is already a star in my eyes, but if this company lets her, right, do her thing with her confidence. She's gaining confidence by the day. Her mannerisms, the way she talks on the microphone, it feels so natural, and you feel it oozing out of the television screen. I continue to become a fan of this woman, and hopefully there's big things for her in the future. Obviously, she can't be dethroning Roxanne Perez. Roxanne winning was the right call, hitting 2 Pop Rocks finishers for the W. But then Giulia, that's right, Giulia from New Japan Pro Wrestling made her NXT WWE debut, had that stare off with Roxanne Perez. Of course, that was freaking badass. The entrance, just the visual of Giulia, I thought was really well done. And Bryan, that's probably going to be your woman that's going to take away that title from Roxanne Perez, as right now there's talks that their matchup will be on the very first episode of the CW network. So, they're going to want to create a big headline for that show, a big start, first episode of a show. Giulia's going to take that title away from Roxanne Perez. And, and honestly, for Giulia's sake, because you want to make her stature and her booking, prominent, I mean, there's no other female you can have her go after than Roxanne Perez in that world championship. Right. So I really like it. The moment was good. The crowd was into it. The stare off was really good. And I'm really looking forward to see what Giulia has to offer, but also what the match itself with Roxanne Perez has to offer as well. And then you had Ethan Page go up against this guy.
Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry going up against Ethan Page to win the NXT championship. Did Joe Hendry believe enough to win this NXT championship? Unfortunately, that was not the case. You had Trick Williams, who was the special guest referee in this match. A lot of extracurricular activity in this match. This led to Ethan Page hitting a low blow onto Joe Hendry, kind of taking advantage of all the chaos. I think Trick Williams was taken out. Another referee was added into the match, and Ethan Page ends up winning this match. Really good matchup. I mean, I was definitely interested in this matchup out of a lot of other matches on this card. For me, it was this main event as well as Jada Parker and Roxanne Perez. But from what I see from Joe Hendry, I haven't really been able to watch Joe Hendry wrestle, right? But I can definitely say, man, Joe Hendry, this dude's good, man. This dude's really good, as well as really good chemistry with Ethan Page. Ethan Page winning is the right call, and I do like how they really kind of let it soak in with Trick Williams making the count for Ethan Page to win the match, and kind of like the facial expressions and letting that moment kind of breathe and soak in was definitely a nice added touch, because obviously they're probably going to have a rematch, maybe also when NXT gets to the CW network in the future. But a really solid match. Ethan Page, it's really cool to see Ethan Page after, unfortunately just kind of being underutilized in AEW, to see him just thriving in this new role in WWE and NXT is really, really cool to see, man. And Joe Hendry, I mean, Bryan, I don't know. You've mentioned it before, man. Does this dude, right? Does this dude make an appearance for the Royal Rumble? I mean, why not, right?
For sure. He's definitely in the Royal Rumble.
You got to think, man, right? Especially, I mean, you're already doing this crossover with NXT and TNA, right? To really make a big, cool moment, have Joe Hendry enter that Royal Rumble match, man. I mean, I know that's kind of future booking there, but Joe Hendry, man, listen, I like his shtick. He's got a really good thing going right now. He's got a lot of good steam. Absolutely, really entertaining. He's got like the Rock-esque with the concerts and everything. So he's doing his thing, man. Much love to him. Can't wait to see more of him. But definitely Ethan Page winning was the right call. Pete Dunne ended up attacking Trick after the match was over as the night ended. Whatever, I guess. As they had a match on NXT just yesterday. So they're going to start at Trick Williams, Pete Dunne type of storyline and feud, unless it already ended since they had the match on Tuesday. So, but I mean, dude, NXT No Mercy. If any of you guys haven't checked out NXT No Mercy yet, at least there are a few matches that I recommend to see. I would recommend you guys to see the tag match and the turn. I thought that was done very well. The women's title match, Jada Parker, I'm telling you, man, she is a star in the making. She put on a great performance with Roxanne Perez, but also the moment with Giulia making her debut, a big splash in the NXT world, in the NXT women's division. Definitely a big moment there to check out. And of course, the main event that overall was simplistic, right? Definitely a lot of chaos and everything, but definitely worth going back and definitely watching. So for me, bro, NXT No Mercy blew Bash in Berlin out the water.
Yeah.
And I don't really think it's even close. So really good stuff from all of those NXT talents, from everybody on that card. Really good stuff. And a really simplistic, but a very effective and very fun pay-per-view overall. Now,
Right
let's jump into Monday Night Raw. Let's do it, man. So let's start off right from the jump. Or actually, let's go into the third hour, right? As Gunther, we've spoken about Gunther earlier. Let's start off with our world champion. So Gunther is in the ring talking about Randy Orton. He said, listen, I said a lot of things about Randy Orton. He said, you know what? It's pretty much true. But you know what? I said that because I wanted to get a rise out of Orton. I wanted the best out of Randy Orton. Degenerates is what he called the crowd. Which I thought was great. Again,
where were they at? Denver?
I think Denver.
Denver. Yeah.
Degenerates in Denver, right. Which is exactly why I mentioned the whole handshake thing. I thought it was so fucking weird. But again, Gunther's been doing so well with his heel shtick. It's been really, really good. Sami Zayn comes out. And he talks about this. It talks about kind of almost, it's interesting, right? We always mention like the mid-card title, right? That's the title to get to the world title, right? And it's the realism aspect of that. So I liked how this segment was done and Sami Zayn's believability. Obviously, Sami Zayn is tremendous, right? We all love Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn has made it clear he wants to go after that world title. And Gunther says, my answer is, well, no. And he just walks out of the ring. Sami Zayn says a few words. I've never seen you back down from a fight. Why are you backing down from this one? And Gunther's like, all right, cool. There's club sandwiches and catering. I'm just going to go have one of those, but you keep doing your thing, right? So Sami Zayn's like, he makes it clear, I'm going to go after that world title when it's all said and done. Not going to lie, I'll send this off to you, Brian. I know I've done a lot of talking already, but when I first came across this, right, I didn't even watch the show yet. I came across this through social media, and my first reaction was, Sami Zayn and Gunther again? Like, we just did this with the IC title. Really, what else is there really need to see between these two? Right? You know, Gunther even attacking Sami Zayn and his family, right? Making it personal, making this really grand moment of dethroning Gunther in his longest IC title reign. So what else is there really need to see? But after I watched this segment and Sami Zayn talking about, hey, like the IC title, the mid-card title, you know, that's the title that gets you to the world championship. And he went down the list of names like Macho Man Randy Savage and Stone Cold, right? And it just brought like the realism into it. Like it makes sense for Sami Zayn to be in this position to now go after the world title. It's like, sure, we've been through hell and back fighting against the IC title, but now it's time to do it again. And this time it's for the world championship, upgrading from the mid card now to the world title. So now thinking about it, I don't mind it, right? Obviously, could I prefer another top face on this Raw roster? Sure. But if that's the story, right, and the segment that you're going to come across, I actually don't mind it for the most part. It's like for Bad Blood, you do need maybe not a filler type of match, but you do need a top face to have Gunther go up against, right? And the options are honestly, Brian, very, very limited. Yeah. So even though I'm kind of 50-50 with it, there's a lot more things to kind of be upset with than this decision, which is Sami Zayn and Gunther. I thought the segment was done well. The realism of Sami Zayn's words and why he was going after the title, I just really liked a lot and appreciated from the segment. So Brian, what are your thoughts? Gunther and Sami Zayn doing it again, but this time for the world title. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was okay. You know, like you had mentioned Bad Blood, it does make sense, particularly for that pay-per-view, because they do have the history. So yeah, I don't mind it. You know, I would just say it's one of the, like, my initial instinct is to say like Gunther can't lose that, right?
No,
But
he
there was
can't.
a time, if we remember, just a little over a year ago, where Sami Zayn, had a title match against Roman in Canada, and I'm telling you, man, it was like, Sammy had a shot. Like, could his reign come to an end there at Canada? So, could they put it on Sammy? Sure, I don't think so. I think they'll leave
I
it,
don't think they will.
with Gunter for a bit. But
Yeah, they will.
yeah, I mean, I don't really mind them running it back. Again, because I just don't like who else is there. What other matchup are you going to put out there, or name you're going to throw out there that's going to have a better match and probably tell a better
If
story
if you
than
would have
these two?
if you would have booked him properly a couple weeks ago, I would have maybe have said Otis. If you would have booked him properly go after that Chad Gable feud, but outside of that, honestly, Brian, there's really nobody else. I mean, obviously they're saving Punk. There's rumors that Punk is going to fight Gunther for that world title at Survivor Series. That's what we're hearing now. So yeah, I mean, you need an opponent for Gunther. There's no other better time than to kind of run it back. And again, just the
Right?
promo kind of just makes sense in regards to it. So yeah, but
Yeah.
maybe Otis could have been a possible decision to make. But I
For
mean,
Gunter to
for
face
yeah, I
Gunter?
mean, if he was booked properly, yes. But now, obviously, just kind of
Yeah.
fiddling around with, with American Made and just the Wyatt Six and just how
So
again
do yeah, yeah.
Otis's booking is just so weird, man. This dude had so much good momentum, and the crowd was once again behind him, and the turn just fell so flat. They rushed that feud
It was
to get to
horrible.
the Wyatt Six. I like the Wyatt Six a lot. We both do. But clearly, you
Sure.
rushed that to get to the Wyatt Six, and now Otis is just stuck in the same predicament that he was before turning on Chad Gable, and
Yeah.
that's such a it's so freaking weird. Um, but yeah, but back to the world title. I'm in agreement with you, Brian. Yeah, I mean, honestly, could we be developing other faces to maybe go after Gunther? Sure. But if you're going to run this back with Zayn and the way you told that story in that segment, I don't mind it at all either, man.
Yeah.
I don't love it, but I don't mind it. I can tolerate it. There's a lot of other
Same.
things to kind of be to kind of be up in arms about for justified reasons with this company. This is
Oh, I'm
this is
I'm gonna
definitely
get
not one
into
of
it
them.
here on Raw. I think pretty much for the rest of the show, I'm gonna be a big ass hater.
But hey, be the hater, bro. Freaking hey, I'm sure you listen. I also got a lot to say with another segment as well. Maybe it's the same segment that you're thinking about, but we'll get into it later. So Gunther and Sami Zayn, Bad Blood. Let's do it, man. Why not? So
Yeah.
really good, decent segment for what it was, but hopefully there's a plan to at least make this intriguing and really fun and investing for everybody. So let's get into the Judgment Day. All right, the Judgment Day. This is the top of the hour. Speaking of the top of the show, Joe Tessitore is now the new announcer, the new commentator for Monday Night Raw. Did a pretty decent job for the most part. Again, holding out
Where was
hope. I know
Michael
it's only
Cole? What
Michael Cole
I
is
mean,
now Michael Cole is now on SmackDown. So they've now moved Wade
oh,
Barrett
okay.
and Joe Tessitore to Monday Night Raw. And now Corey
Okay.
Graves and Cole are now the new SmackDown team now that Pat McAfee is back
Okay.
at College Game Day and ESPN, of course, and everything. So shout out to Joe. Hopefully this is the start of a very successful run as a WWE commentator. There was one part when American Made was coming out. He accidentally said something like a 16-man or person tag. And there was like this long pause during like American Made's entrance. And then all of a sudden, like Triple H is probably in the headset, like, all right, we're going to put up this graphic, just read it. And then like after a long pause, like, oh, okay, six person mixed tag. And that was like right before they went up the commercial break. And like, oh no, that was like right at the start of the show. But that was, listen, I mean, I had to kind of
Yeah.
bring it up, but I'm not going to go overboard about it either. I just kind of felt bad for Joe for the most part. But overall, I thought he did pretty darn well. And I think, and hopefully this is again the start of a really good career and a good run for Joe on the commentary table. But back to the Judgment Day here. So Rhea Ripley comes out. She starts off the show, interrupted by Dominic Mysterio. The crowd is giving it to Dominic, of course. This ends up leading to a blindside attack by Liv Morgan, ended up targeting Rhea Ripley's knee as she was kind of like dangled up in the ropes and like attacking her knee or injured leg. Damian Priest tried to come out to help out Rhea. And then, of course, Dominic and Liv, they hightail it up the rampway. We'll get into the main event segment later, as well as with Jey Uso. We're going to get into him. Let me start by saying off this, Brian. Listen, I love good heel heat, right? I really like good heel heat, especially when it's, natural, right? In regards to it. And Dominic has been one of those people. But I'm telling you, man, like there was a time to where in this, like all the loud boos and everything, I felt like it was just kind of dragging. It's just like, all right, let's really try to pick this segment up a little bit here. Again, maybe it's, piped in a little bit, maybe it's not, but if it's not like 80 to 95% of like the crowd, because some of the crowd was into it, booing, some of it wasn't towards the end of like all the booing and all that stuff. If it's not really 90% or 90 or 80 to 90% in favor, just keep the segment rolling. I just felt like it was dragging a little bit there. It's just a little too much. I don't mind the booing. It's just, but when you drag it off like that, it's just so very odd. I like the angle with the knee, right? Injuring Rhea Ripley's knee. I thought that was fine for what it was. Again, kind of goes back to what I've been saying about Liv and this new Judgment Day stable. You got to make this group more of a dominant faction, right? Yes, make them like the cowardly heels, right? That fits their shtick. But also, like, it's 5-on-2 for a reason, right? So right. You have to at least, have them mark their territory, if that makes sense. We'll get to the main event later, but Brian, what are your thoughts in regards to this opening segment before we get to the main event portion of the Judgment Day? What are your thoughts?
I thought it was a good segment, to the boos, for Dom. I'm actually surprised that this whole bit has lasted this long with Dom, because I mean it's been at least a year and a half where every time he says something it's the boos. I'm really shocked that it really has, at least to some degree. I think in the beginning some crowd noise was piped in. Maybe they're doing that now,
right?
Who knows, but I would like to see Dom be able to, if there's a way to get away from that a little bit, so now he can start develop more, because it's the heel shtick. It's it was organic and it is, but when he's still doing a year and a half later, still trying to say like the 3 words at a time, we got to do something a little bit different now. But it was all right. And I do say, like, I don't know, let me know what you think, because I think maybe the segment was supposed to end with like a some type of Rhea injury per se,
right?
But man, like looking at back at that, like I don't know if it was supposed to be like that or not, like the way she got caught up in the ropes like that. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, but either way, it was a good segment. We'll see where it goes from there, or where we kind of already know where it is going, but I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah. So later on in the night, this was Jey Uso, right? Yeet, right? Yeet, Mr. Yeet Man himself, Jey Uso, tagging with Damian Priest and taking on the tag champions, which is Finn Balor and JD McDonough. If you forget that they're the tag champions, I wouldn't be shocked for you if that's the case, because since they've won those titles, and I believe it's been almost well over a month now, they have not defended those titles once now. That just goes to show you that Triple H has no idea what he is doing with this tag division, and just clearly either is just clueless or just doesn't give a fuck. But that's a different discussion. So Rhea Ripley ended up coming back out in this matchup. Liv Morgan was getting involved first in this match. Rhea Ripley's out there in a boot and in a crutch. She's like hobbling out there. Liv Morgan is still like pretty much hightailing it. And then Jey and Damian Priest still ended up winning this match. Jey Uso hit the splash to JD McDonough for the W to win the matchup. And it's just Jey Uso, Rhea, and Damian just eating all over the place, I guess, to kind of end the show. Like Rhea's kind of like dancing on one leg, like to Jey Uso's theme song or music, kind of vibing out or whatever. Look, man, outside of the Judgment Day, right? I actually do want to mention this, and this is, of course, with Jey Uso as he is a part of this IC title tournament, right? The number one contendership for the Intercontinental Championship. And he was in a really good backstage segment with Braun Breaker. I already mentioned this on social media, but I figured I'd mention it as well on here. Even though it was 60 seconds, it was very brief, but a lot of substance and a lot of intrigue was put into that. Like Braun Breaker's, he's out there, he's kind of like mocking Jey, and then Jey's like has this serious face. He ended up taking off the glasses and everything. And Braun Breaker was really good, man. Both of these dudes were really good. He's like, listen, dude. Yeah. He's like, you can have Rhea, you can have Dominic sloppy seconds, right? But this is your last chance, man. You could drop out of this tournament, drop out of this fatal 4-way, right? Because it's for your own good. Because if you don't, then I'm going to, not only am I going to whoop your ass, but you're going to flat out lose. It's that simple. Jey Uso ends up calling him a rookie. I thought that was like a nice little touch there, right? And you can see like the look on Braun's face. He's like, okay, that you're going to hit the rookie card on me. All right. So you could tell it on Braun Breaker's face. But the best promo I've heard Jey Uso cut, he's like, listen, I'm going to win this tournament. I'm going to take that IC title from you, and I'm going to beat your ass while I do it. Yeet. Right? And I thought, again, it was just serious Jey Uso, man. I've been dying for this. Yeah. Right? Listen, there's times for Jey Uso to be goofy and yeet all over the place, right? He's selling the merchandise. People like it. That's great. But there comes a time to where these characters have to get serious every once in a while, right? Jey Uso, when he's serious like that, is the best you're going to get out of Jey Uso, right? There's times to yeet and dance and have a good time. But that segment with Braun Breaker was just so refreshing because of how it made Jey Uso look for the first time in a long time. So I thought that segment was just so well done. And it's just like, if Jey Uso is going to be the number one contender, why weren't we doing these segments from the beginning? Instead of wasting time with a tournament, right? With Dragunov and all these people. Dragunov won a match. How about that? Right. He's been losing all over the globe on tour and everything, right? So he can't win in that aspect. He just goes around the world on tour and fucking lose. But he won this matchup, right? And now he's going to be a part of the Fatal 4-Way. I don't know how far that's going to get him. But hey, he won a fucking match. But instead of just doing these tournaments, bro, that's really doing, if we're all being serious and if we're being truthful, they're doing nothing but just fill up the show and just give some people some TV time and then call them back if there's another tournament in the near future. That's it, right? So if Jey Uso is your guy to face Braun, just start the feud with segments like that. I don't understand why we're wasting time here. So that's the IC title concern. So Bryan, again, I know that was also a lot, but your thoughts about the main event, and if you do have anything in regard to the IC title, what are your thoughts?
So yeah, this is where I'm going to start getting to be a little hater, man. Because the backstage segment, him and Braun, I did like that. Just what they're doing with Jey is kind of, if at times it feels confusing, at times it feels like you've missed the opportunity, but now you're trying to go back to it. And what I mean by that is like, you're trying to tell the story between him and Rhea, and now Priest, and involving them together. Mm-hmm. You got the IC title now that he's in the tournament, and you have the segment with Braun, and Roman Reigns is just kind of starting to come back, so he's going to be in that. So it just kind of feels like Jey is just kind of, I don't know what it is. Because initially, I was thinking like, how are they gonna, do this thing with Rhea and the Judgment Day while Roman is coming back, and Jimmy will come back and whatever. And then I was like, all right, well maybe Roman will come back here and there, but it's not really going to kick off until the Netflix thing in January. So you can do this little thing here with Rhea, for the rest of the year. But now you have him in this IC title picture too. it's just I don't know. That's just my gripe with it. Is just
Yeah.
you know, Jay's doing great. It's no shade to him. I just don't know. Like, pick one story kind of and go with it, because
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, maybe you can mesh the IC title and Rhea and maybe getting help with the Judgment Day. Maybe that could work.
Mhm.
But I don't think you can mesh the Bloodline story with the IC title, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my only issue with that, really.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I guess they want to use this story with Rhea and the Judgment Day and being and as well as the IC title to kind of, I guess, help drag along to where they want to have Jey Uso join back into the Bloodline story. So it's like, hey, for now, you're going to be a part with Rhea
Yeah,
and some like little romantic type of fling or whatever. You're going to fight Braun for the IC title. And when the time is right, we'll have you back over to this Bloodline story. That seems like what they're doing because he's not beating Braun Breaker, right? And I guess he's going to
no,
do.
and I wonder if it's even. I mean, you would assume because it was them two having the segment that he's going to win the tournament, but then you know,
Right.
it's like one of those things. Like, if he's not going to win, like, why, you know, why even have him in the tournament? You know, I don't know.
No, I get it, and again, it kind of goes back to what we stated about Gunther's world title. Like, you know,
Yeah,
who are those opponents for Braun Breaker to go up against? There's not a whole lot of list of names
right.
to really
Yeah,
go up. So again, that's what I keep saying, man, about this company, bro. There's no planning ahead, right? People keep saying long-term storytelling. Well, there's no planning ahead with this fucking company ever,
do
and I
you
keep
think they could? Do you think they could do this? Like, you know, and I know Braun's already beat him, but do you think Ilya could win this tournament?
no. I don't see
No.
it. I don't think they're going to
Yeah,
give him the
no, I feel you.
opportunity, bro. As well as it's just the fact that I've seen now him fight Breaker
Yeah,
already
yeah, I
several
feel you.
times as kind of just a third wheel opponent. I would love it again if you were booking Dragunov properly since he's been on the
Right.
main roster and to have him
They
face
haven't.
Braun Breaker in a match, then yeah, I would be open to it to where, yeah, maybe having him lose the match, depending how he loses, instead of losing to somebody like Jey Uso simplistically to his fucking spear and a splash, and then
Roll
he's
up.
done. He's looking up at the lights and the roll
And
up.
that's another thing that's telling too. How are you gonna, seriously, like, no shit aside, like, how are you gonna have Jey Uso win, right? And so he's gonna face Braun, whose finishing move is a badass fucking spear,
hmm
and you got Jey Uso's spear. Come on, bro.
Uh-huh.
Come on,
Spear
man.
versus spear. Fucking Christ. But yeah, and like I said, also with Jey Uso, it's just they're already teasing like, oh, like he's like family, right? The Steiner family, which is Braun Breaker's family, versus Jey Uso and like his family, Samoan family. So they're already teasing this
Yeah.
matchup already. So I don't really see anything in regards to the hope of like maybe Dragunov could win this fatal four-way match next
Or
week.
I
Go
wonder
ahead,
if
Brian.
that's how, maybe that's how he gets back, you know, the bloodline. That's the gateway back into the bloodline if he's doing the, you know, because I mean, if you have Rick and Scott Steiner come
Sure.
out there, you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
possibly. So yeah, I can go for hours talking about Dragunov since you mentioned it, Brian, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna go
Right.
there. I've mentioned so many times about it. So yeah, I mean, look, the main event, I really don't have really much to really say. It was just another ending to Monday Night Raw, as a lot of other Monday Night Raws in the past. It's just the faces go over, the heels retreat, or the heels get defeated. Everybody goes home happy. Yay, we're yeeting, and then we go off the air. So I just think we could have done a lot better. I think the Judgment Day story has been decent for what it was. I think it's definitely been the most consistent from this company, but they gotta be careful of just not always doing the same thing, right? It's just, oh, it's like a game of tag. It's like, oh, tag, you're it. Now I'm over to this side of the crowd. Oh, tag, you're it, and now I race over to this side of the crowd. It's like, oh, the faces jump in, then the heels run away. Like, we gotta like not
Yeah.
always do the same thing, or at least change up the scenery, which is why I like the concession stand brawl a couple weeks ago. I thought that was really refreshing, right? Even on social media, like there was where Rhea hightailed it, or excuse me, Liv Morgan was hightailing it, screaming for her life, running away from Rhea on social media. That thing that was on a TikTok or an Instagram reel. I'm like, why is that not on television, bro? Do you know what you can do with that, Brian? Bro, I'm telling you, go to the streets, whatever town they're in, right? Or maybe like, you know, if you want to play like this love,
Netflix, bro. Netflix.
Probably, yeah. I guess they want to maybe save it for Netflix, I guess. I mean, I don't know in regards. I'm hopeful maybe that the product does get better in regards to them being on Netflix, but we'll see. But I'm sure like they do, but in regards to maybe saving things for the Netflix deal is started, I'm sure that that's part of the case, but man, you can do so much with some of these shticks that are on Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. Place that in the show, like Liv running for her life and she's screaming. Like, dude, Liv Morgan is tremendous, by the way. Again, I can't emphasize that enough. And Rhea's like not too far behind her and she's running after her. Dude, you could do so much to where you come back to commercial break and Liv's hightailing it. You got a camera somewhere that's like catching it all. That would have been so good, but yet they always end up just back in the ring, and then the heels retreat again, and then the faces are just standing in the middle of the ring. It's just the same, pretty much the same result at the end of the day. So we'll see. I'm hopeful for Finn and Damian Priest. I do like that Rhea did get the victory in Bash in Berlin, because I don't think that Rhea should be holding on to this title. I don't really think she needs it. I said it in the Bash in Berlin review. Keep having Liv gain this momentum with this title.
I think she kind of does, though, because that's where it kind of also, right? Like Liv was taking everything from her, right? Well, that title's one of those things. So I think Rhea's got to get that back here, like. Well, whenever they do face, each other, I don't know.
I mean, that could be the case. That's probably what they could still do. But man, I just don't. I just think it would just benefit more to have Liv be the one to win this feud, and again to have Rhea, because again she's hold on to that title already. She's already a top face. She really doesn't need that world title. Yeah, for the story wise, yes, I get it. But with Liv, I just think it would benefit Liv so much more if she holds on to that title and finding maybe someone else that could benefit from beating her for that world title. Not saying that it can't happen. They could probably, when it's all said and done, Rhea Ripley can get that world title back at Bad Blood or whatever pay-per-view they have the matchup. But yeah, I mean, there's an argument for both. I'm more on the side personally, right? Again, as long as it makes sense and it doesn't affect Liv Morgan in a negative way, right? The way she loses and all that stuff, which I don't think is going to be the case, because they have done very well, at least so far, with this story. But we'll see. I'm more on the fence of having Liv win this feud, because I think she just needs it more, because Rhea, she's already that top gal. She's got the best. She's, again, the top female star, if not the top female star, but the top star of this company right now. So I don't know. It can go either way, I guess. But let's move on, as we got a lot of other stuff to cover here. I do have to mention this, Brian, as we'll get into Punk and Drew McIntyre. There's a lot to talk about there. I got to mention these women's tag titles, especially Damage Control. I have to mention it, right? So, by the way, shout out to Kairi
Sane, by the way.
I was just about to say, Kairi Sane, that spot, man. Absolutely, bro. Yeah, that she was left a shiner, that's for sure. I don't know what you think.
I mean, like a fucking cluster.
Yeah. Dude, it was gnarly, bro. It was for sure. I don't know what you think about this, Brian. At least for the spot. I'm gonna get the Damage Control in just a second, but the spot just was so weird. Like, she just hauled everything into that jump off the turnbuckle. I'm like, what were you trying to do with that? Obviously trying to collide into maybe a Bianca or one of the members of Unholy Union. I get it, but she put all emphasis into this jump. It's like you're screaming to go face first into that fucking announce table. Bianca tried to catch her and save her from the fall, but which again, props to Bianca for trying to protect Kairi. But that was just like, I'm not shocked by the way that was set up. I'm like, what are you trying to accomplish with this? And then I saw her hit the head on the announce table. I'm like, oh, please be okay. Please don't be a cut or nothing.
Dude,
and then you see that, and you see the blemish. I'm like, oh my goodness, man. But anyway, Damage Control, guys, I don't know what the fuck we're doing with this group, nor do I know what we're doing with this tag division. It's so weird. So I'm guessing, Brian, the way it went down, right? Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, they win this match, and you have Damage Control and Jade Cargill and Bianca have a screaming match with one another. Let me get this straight, right? I want everybody to really dissect this. Damage Control had no choice but to turn face because they were out-heeled by Pure Fusion Collective. I'm hoping I'm getting that name right, with Zoe Starks, DeVille, and Baszler. Now their mannerisms have to be face now because they were out-heeled. So now they're the faces of this match, so I guess you're just going to throw them and Unholy Union in this match. They were just heels not too long ago. They're going to clearly be out-faced by Bianca and Jade Cargill. Why couldn't you just keep them face? Does anybody...
You mean heel?
Or excuse me, heel. Excuse me, yes.
Yeah.
Does anybody, guys, understand how stupid this fucking booking is? And now you turn Damage...
Not only that, I got to go back to the podcast y'all did where, like, Bianca and Jade should have never lost these titles to begin with. But Correct. You did it. Now they got them back from Alba Fire and Isla Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
And you have them win this match to become the number one contender again for the title. Like, what? What? What the fuck?
Again, more number one contenders matches, bro.
It's
so fucking. And now you're just you're pretty much just gonna throw everybody out there because you can't do Alba Fire and Isla Dawn against Jade and Bianca. You already did that already. So now you're gonna put in Damage Control. Just do Damage Control and Jade and Bianca. Have Damage Control as the heels as they originally were against Jade and Bianca, but now you turn them face. They got out-heeled, and now they're going to be out-faced by Jade and Bianca. Guys, what the fuck are we doing, man? Does anybody think of this at all? This is so dumb. This is so lackluster, and it's clear as day nobody cares about this women's tag division, let alone not even just the tag division, but the women's division itself. Because, again, outside of a few pieces with Tiffany and Nia on SmackDown and Liv and Rhea on Raw, there's really nothing of substance, man, of what anybody is doing right now. And it's a shame. And Damage Control, Kyrie had to freaking get her eye almost out of her socket with this type of booking because she's trying to maybe
like
create
that far from like losing her fucking eye.
Dude, seriously, bro. Like she's trying to go maybe above and beyond to maybe create a cool moment because this fucking company doesn't want to freaking back her up with anything, with any type of booking. It's so frustrating, man. And with Jade and Bianca, they're going to hold on to those titles. They know, like you said, Brian, as well as I did, they never should have lost the titles to begin with. No. You did it for a cheap pop in Scotland. That's all you fucking did, bro. And it's clear as fucking day. Obviously, Jade and Bianca, they're going to remain as a team because it seems like that this company is not comfortable yet with Jade being on her own. So for the time being, they're going to be a fucking tag team, man, and they're going to hold on to those titles. At least maybe the good news is that there's going to be a team that will hold on to those titles for maybe more than like a month or two. So yeah, that's all I've got, man, in regards to Damage Control, man. It really is a shame. Io Sky, right? Io Sky, this is a former women's champion, bro. This is one of the best female wrestlers, arguably in the fucking world. And this is what she's fucking doing. As well as Kairi Sane, much love to her. Both of those ladies. This is what they have to offer. Stop, man. This is the best we got for them. Like, stop it. So that's another different discussion for a different day. But let's move on. Let's end some things with some positivity here. And that is with, honestly, Brian, you can make the argument that's been the best feud of the year. And that is CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. CM Punk is out there cutting a promo, talking about his victory over Drew McIntyre. And this dude's happier than a pig in shit. Like he's running all over the place. He's jumping on announce tables. He's talking about he's going after Gunther and the world title. He's put Drew McIntyre in the rearview mirror, and all of a sudden his legs get swept underneath him. It's Drew McIntyre as he swept his feet underneath him off the announce table as Punk was celebrating again, like he's like a little kid, like he just got an Xbox for Christmas or something. And so Wade Barrett is like trying to hold him back, and Drew McIntyre's looking at him like, dude, like, you better back off because you could get it too, bro. He pushes him out of the way, hits a devastating Claymore, ends up knocking CM Punk's shoe off. I thought that was kind of funny.
Right.
I was going to say he knocks his shoe off as he hits the Claymore. Yeah. Hits it flush, too. CM Punk did a tremendous job selling it. Drew McIntyre legit chucks CM Punk back into the ring. Right. I think he hit like 2 Claymores on the outside, and then he hits another devastating Claymore, just as devastating as the other 2. Hits it flush, leaves CM Punk where he lays, and then Drew eyes the bracelet, and he starts taking the bracelet off of Punk's wrist, and I'm like, no. I'm like, no, we're not going to play like this cat and mouse thing with please don't do it. It's like, oh, I got the bracelet. No, I got the bracelet. No, I got it. It's mine. No, it's mine. No, I said it was mine. No, I'm like, don't do this shit, man. Like, please, man, the bracelet story. I said this in the Bash in Berlin review. This should be done. This should be over. Luckily enough, Drew McIntyre looks at this bracelet and goes, I don't need this. Like, this is not about some dumb bracelet. He rips the bracelet apart. He snaps it in half. He shoves the beads in Punk's mouth when he's just already on the floor. He's in a bloody mess and everything. All officials, Jason Jordan, all the officials in suit and ties come out to separate Drew McIntyre. But then it wasn't done. When we come back from commercial, Punk is being carried off into an ambulance on a stretcher. And then Drew McIntyre says, now fuck that. I want some more of this dude. And he's punching away on Punk when he's on the stretcher. He's trying to rip his eyes out of his socket. Like, this dude is legit unhinged, bro. And then finally suits and ties and officials were able to escort him away from Punk. So well done, man. So fucking well done, dude. Again, I love the fact that the bracelet is now no longer the main entity of this story. That part is done. It's no longer about the bracelet. And Drew McIntyre's like, listen, this ain't over until I say it's over. This ain't about some dumb bracelet. I just want to beat the living shit out of you now. And so, yeah, I really loved it. Punk selling the Claymores was also really good. And yeah, the best segment of this show. And I don't even think it's close. I'm going to leave it at that. Brian, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, man, in this segment. What do you think?
All right, man. I'm about to get real with you, James. And let me preface this by saying I fully acknowledge that Punk and Drew probably has been the feud of the year in all of wrestling, probably. But man, I hate this. I really did. Because so Punk goes out there and he starts talking about going after the world title, right? Gunther.
Right.
Or Cody, I guess, if he wanted to do that, who knows?
Right.
But you assume it's Gunther. So they've had 2 matches, which Punk has won both. And you mentioned, I'm glad they aren't, I guess they are. I mean, they're kind of getting away from the bracelet story, but now it's just going to become, you broke my bracelet. And like after that match, like I really thought Drew was going to win at Bash at Berlin, because I figured this was going to be a trilogy of matches, and I thought Drew was going to win this one. But now, like, if you have Punk coming out there talking about going after the title, and now Drew comes back out here, he's not letting it go, and they're going to have another match at pay-per-view, again, you just get into this booking thing where now, okay, either Punk beats Drew for the 3rd time, or Drew finally gets the win, but then how are you going to have Punk talking about going after the title after just losing to McIntyre? So, and again, while, yes, he broke the bracelet, it's still, I don't know. I feel like they're still kind of milking that bracelet shit.
They could. They absolutely could.
Yeah.
I'm just
So
I'm just
I'm
glad, Brian. So I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm just glad that they're just not like, oh, I steal it, and then Punk takes it back, and then Drew McIntyre
right,
takes
right,
it back.
right.
So I'm glad
Yeah.
at least like the entity of the story is what I'm saying is that like the bracelet means nothing to Drew anymore. Like it's broken, it's done. Like I'm done with this bracelet. I'm done playing games. Like that's kind
Right.
of what I got out of it. But I hear what you're saying. They could absolutely definitely milk the whole bracelet thing, and now Punk is going to be upset. You broke my bracelet with my dog and wife's name, right? No, dude, trust me,
Right, right.
absolutely. But if they
And
were to
so,
book it,
I just feel like if since Punk won in the manner that he did win at Bash of Berlin, I mean,
yeah,
hitting a GTS after every buckle, I mean, it was a
that
convincing
was
fucking win.
right.
Like
Yeah,
I feel like that should have been the blow off. If you've had Punk win twice, that should have been the blow off. I don't think you
yeah.
need a third match here. And I just think it kind of convolutes things if because Drew's still talking about Drew still wants to get back to the title, and I don't know. I mean, like who do you think Drew would go over at Bad Blood? Or do you think Punk beats him 3 times?
Uh, well, Drew McIntyre did win the first match. He won at SummerSlam with the Seth Rollins special guest referee, and then now Punk wins this second matchup.
That's right. That shit. That man.
So
Why am I?
that's why they're doing the
Yeah.
trilogy. You see what I'm saying? So,
I don't know
but
why I was thinking Punk won the first one too.
yeah,
That was my fuck up.
no, you're good, bro. But to answer your question, man,
But
I'd
that
even
makes sense then if it is the trilogy. It's 1-1 now.
that's
So
why it's the trilogy
everything I
because
just said is fucking irrelevant.
oh man, but yes, that's why they're doing a trilogy. Yes, because Drew McIntyre did win the first match
Why did I
at
think he
SummerSlam.
won? Why did I think Punk won the first time too? I don't know.
It's all good, bro. But to answer your question, man, look, I would love for Drew to win this feud because I don't think it's going to do any harm to Punk. Punk is still polarizing. People are still going to love Punk. People are still going to chant CM Punk's name. But now with all this talk about Punk getting this world title match against Gunther at
Right.
Survivor Series, I feel like Punk is going to be the one that gets the last laugh and
Yeah.
wins this rivalry. And especially with Gunther as champion and with him as the dastardly heel, you got Drew who's the heel, and they've already feuded against one another so many times. So yeah, I think Punk is going to win this match.
Yep.
And yeah, it sucks for Drew because he has done a lot of losing lately, but it depends again on how well if they can book it the way they did at Bash in Berlin, right? To where it does no harm to Drew McIntyre because of how the story was implicated with the bracelet and how that part of the story was done, then I would be
Right.
okay with it. But yeah, I think the more that I'm thinking about it, as much as I would like to see Drew win this feud because I think he would get more out of it and his character and how he can evolve to the next chapter, but because of Punk potentially getting a title match against Gunther in the future, at least that's what we're hearing, Punk is
Yeah.
probably going to win this feud overall. So, but yeah, but like I said, I really like this segment in regards to how it was done, just letting the segment breathe. Also going
Well, see,
backstage.
I'm sorry to cut you off because see
Yeah,
that I was the whole time I was looking at it through the lens of Punk's already won fucking twice. Like it just
twice.
doesn't fucking.
Right. I
So
was
yeah, uh,
It's a
whatever.
long night, guys. Listen, it's almost 11 o'clock on a Wednesday night. It's been a long, I mean, I don't know, Brian, you probably had too much fun at the beach, I'm guessing. I don't know, or what.
Oh
But
man, the beach is this after the last 2 days of work. The beach is already a distant memory, man.
I feel that, bro. I absolutely feel
uh,
that for sure. But you kind of just a recap, man, as we'll kind of end things here. But look, Drew McIntyre and Punk, again, we stated arguably the best feud of the year. And the best segment of the show was Punk and McIntyre. Outside of that, Jey Uso and Braun, I mentioned that was decent. Again, the IC title tournament matches, again, are just filler for the most part. The
yeah,
women's tag titles are just unfortunate of just how poorly everybody is being booked and portrayed. Judgment Day has still been consistent. I would like to see things evolve more and things get, more accomplished in regards to creating more moments. Shout out to Bronson Reed. We didn't get Bronson Reed this week. He ended up catching COVID this week, which is why he wasn't a part of one of the IC title tournament matches from this past Monday. So much love to him in regards to it. Hopefully he's okay with, of course, the virus and everything. But yeah, I mean, Monday Night Raw was, outside of a few things here and there, was decent. Okay. But I really would wish, Brian, that we would get a lot more moments in this show. I need the Wyatt Six to be a bigger asset to the show. They feel like they're just.
Let me close with
Go
that,
ahead, Brian.
man.
Yeah.
See, that was the biggest thing I hated about the show. To be honest, I gotta keep it fair, man. I mean, I love the Wyatt Six. I've loved everything they've done. Again, I mentioned last week, like I think having Uncle Howdy in a match, exposes them. Man, I tell you, this week, the promo that he came out there and cut, I guess it was fine, but I think it was the weakest that he's been. It just kind of felt a little rambly,
Mm-hmm.
And then to announce a match I guess next week, that it's going to be a intergender 8-man street fight,
Yeah.
Again, you're not putting any of this stuff on pay-per-views. You're just having it on it's just underwhelming, man. I don't understand.
They need to be a bigger asset to the show, man. They just again, they're not utilized enough, or at least there's not enough substance to what they are doing in a short amount of time, right? It's just they're just continuing to fight and brawl and be in these weird segments with American Made. That's not really doing much. I mean, let's be honest here. It's really not. You rushed Otis and Gable to get to this point. Otis is kind of just stuck in the same place that he was before the fucking turn. Now you're going to have more Alpha Academy American Made matches to get to the Wyatt Six again. It's so weird. It's just like, why not develop the Six, right? Not just the VHSs, right? You've already done that enough, but stuff backstage. I mentioned Orton and Undertaker in that feud from 2005, bro. Do shit like that to where Chad Gable is paranoid because he was the first dude that was legit almost knocked out dead, right? People forget about that from their debut. Make that a really cool portion of this story, right? So where maybe Gable is hallucinating. The Wyatt Six are so in his head, he thinks he sees Eric
I think
Rowan.
they're already too far past that. I don't.
No, I agree. Yeah, because they've already done the Uncle Howdy match. They've already debuted the rest of the Six, and now you're gonna involve Nikki Cross in this intergender tag street fight or whatever it's called, right? Yeah, they've already done too much with it. It's just the Wyatts are gonna probably go over once again. It's just we continue to do the same thing. It's just okay, we defeated the Creed brothers and Chad Gable in a 6-man tag. All right, now Uncle Howdy now defeats Chad Gable, and now we're gonna just throw everybody in there and just have a street fight.
And now Nikki Cross and
Nikki Cross and Ivy Nile are gonna be a part of it. It's just what I mean. It sucks because I really want to and get invested with the Wyatt Six because I have so much love. You guys know for Bray Wyatt and his family, as well as for his brother Bo Taylor Rotunda. I want it to work so much, and for what they are given, they're doing a really good job portraying themselves. But the problem is they're not a big enough talking point of this show. So like you said, Brian, to where the least that they can do is have the main event Monday Night Raw, which is what Uncle Howdy did last week. But these matches and this story, if you're going to portray the Wyatts the way you did in their debut, they need to be on these PLEs. They need to be showcased more, right? And even though I don't mind necessarily the short pay-per-view formula, right? Maybe 5 matches, because there's a lot more creativity being involved in the matches, right? Everybody gets their own little spotlight, but But that also kind of leaves out people like Uncle Howdy, people like the Six, people like Chad Gable. It's definitely it's a big issue, right? The Jey Usos, the Braun Breakers that are not a part of these pay-per-views. It's definitely an issue and a discussion to be had. So, but yeah, man, the Wyatt Six and American Made, as much as I have love for Chad Gable and as well as Bo and Uncle Howdy, it's starting to really run its course now to where we're just, once again, like I mentioned with the Judgment Day, doing the same thing over and over and over, just having them brawl. That's it. And now they're all going to brawl with Nikki Cross and Ivy Nile added into it. So,
right.
And that's pretty much it, man.
That's, I mean, part. As much these last 2 weeks with Uncle Howdy and just the Wyatt Six, man, it's just given me a big pause, man. Like up until these last 2 weeks, like it's been going along good, and then these last 2 weeks, it's like, what the fuck?
Me too, man. Trust me, I'm waiting for just some more evolvement within this story and in these characters, the Wyatt Six, right? I mean, the VHS is for good with what it was, and this is what I was afraid of, though, Brian, to where people are like, oh, don't worry, James, they're going the safe route, right? The VHSs, it's fine. But it's just like, all right, guys, but we've been doing these VHSs for quite some time now. It's time to start making this faction and this group a bigger entity of this show. Like the VHSs to where, yes, it's good. But if you do it over and over and over again, it's not going to be a special anymore if you just keep repeating the same thing. But I'm telling you, the reason why they're playing it safe, that they've done it for so long, is because Triple H and this company, and they've done it before with a lot of supernatural gimmicks, they don't know how to book supernatural stuff as well as they probably have used to, right? And it's kind of clear as day. They don't know how to book this faction to where they're going to get exposed to a certain degree, right? I mean, we've seen it from Cross's stable, right? As Karrion Kross himself. We've seen it from Bray Wyatt and The Fiend multiple times, right? With the matches with Goldberg and the Hell in a Cell match with Rollins.
Oh my God.
Bro, trust me. If you listen, the Bray Wyatt tribute video, go check it out. I talked a whole bunch of shit about that. So yeah, man, that's just how I truly feel, is that they don't know how to book supernatural. They don't know how to make this group special if it's not going the safe route. And if they're not going the safe route, then they're going to get exposed because they don't know how to protect characters like an Uncle Howdy and such. And that's just what I truly believe, man. I truly do. They don't know what to do outside of a couple VHSs and then brawling with American Made. That's because that's all we've gotten. And it's just a shame, man. It really is. But I guess we'll let it play out, I guess, is what I'm always being told. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to another edition of the Ruthless Talk podcast. Once again, it is very late on a Wednesday night, so I'm sure most of you guys will catch this sometime Thursday or maybe later on this week. Once again, thank you again. Shout out to Carlo from our last episode.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Carlo, so much for joining our Bash in Berlin review. If you guys have once again not have checked out that review, definitely go check it out now. It is a part or available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, if you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay notified so that way you don't miss a single episode. We will talk AEW and SmackDown, right? This was a very broad show, a crazy show as it is. Wasn't enough time to get to some AEW. I did mention some stuff from AEW at the beginning of the Bash in Berlin review in the cold open. So if you guys, again, want to go check that out, again, available on all of our platforms right now. But we will dive back into some AEWs. We got AEW All Out coming up this coming weekend, as well as we got the SmackDown after Bash in Berlin, see how that unfolds with the bloodline and everything. And yeah, more content to come, baby, as always. Brian, your thoughts before we end the show?
Man, my biggest thought, don't fuck up the Wyatt Six. That's my biggest thought tonight.
You and me both, bro. You and me both. Triple H, suits and ties, Crater 912. Do fucking better, bro. Make the Wyatt Six a banner entity, right? We don't ask for much. Just make the Wyatt Six for what they have earned. Make them a bigger asset to this show. They know what to do. They know what their vision is. They know what they need to do in regards to making the characters and everything special. Just give them just a little bit more. That's all we ask, bro. But that is going to do it for today's episode, everybody. My name is James Porcelli.
I'm Bryan Thomas.
Until next time, there will be a next time. Your boys are signing off saying salute.
Peace out.
And take care, everybody. Top guys out.
The skin is dry and pale. The pain will never fail. And so